Hello, what's going on, everyone? Thank you so much to both Evan and Kira for bringing us the intro for week 2 of the Sootopolis City League. My name is Grayson DeWolf, joined by the super talented and handsome Angelo Hunter. You're looking excellent today, my friend.
Thanks, Grayson. You're not looking too bad yourself. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm really excited for these matches today. We have kind of what seems to be a titan of VGC in this first match for you. We have Kyriakou versus Rinkai. Kyriakou is a very accomplished player, so I'm really excited to get into this match. As we do see going into week 2, the Aloha Arachnids are in quite a deficit here of 2-5, so we will know that no matter what happens with this match, the Howie Heats will be certainly leaving feeling good this week, but it's really important to remember that the final standings of each week are going to matter in the future. So a 3-5 will look a lot better for the Aloha Arachnids versus a 2-6. So I think it's really important that Rinkai can try to get a win for their team here as we move forward and we look over at these teams. What are your first impressions, Angelo?
Yeah, really interesting teams from both sides. Kyriakou having a more of a hyper-offensive team. They have some really strong threats in the Landorus and the Nihilego, and then they also have the physical attackers like the Urshifu and the Rillaboom. And then Rinkai is a really interesting team. I see a Turtonator on that side, which is something we don't see too often, but is pretty good against Urshifu. And then Celesteela, which is one of my personal favorites, paired with the Landorus and the Eliki.
Yes, and of course we also need to just talk about already these accolades that both of these players have already garnished. With Kyriakou, a 7 times Worlds competitor. That is more than just about any player can say, especially just being able to qualify for Worlds that many times. But even more impressive, a 2 times UK national champion. A national champion. That just blows my mind. It's some serious accomplishments, and I think that it goes to show, like, this might be a challenge for anyone to be up against Kyriakou. So super excited to see how Rinkai does. In addition, also looking over at Rinkai, they also have some decent accolades as well. The USPA was the first team for Indiana, a 5-1 record, which is very good. And also was the APAC League 4 playoffs with Rayquaza. Overall, just really excited to get into this match and see how these two trainers face up against each other. All right, going into the match, we have over on Kyriakou's side, we have the Rillaboom and the Landorus. Oh, sorry, the Rinkai side. Rinkai side, we have Rillaboom and Landorus, and over here on Kyriakou's side, we have the Tornadus and the Nihilego. It's a very interesting lead for, I would say, Kyriakou. We do see that the Intimidate comes out here. Not going to matter whole much to these special attackers, but immediately I see some fake-out pressure coming up from this Rillaboom here. I imagine a decent thing to do here, just be fake out, try to stop that tail end from going up, because that Nihilego can do a lot of damage into specifically the Rillaboom as well. We'll have to see what decisions are made for this turn 1, because I would imagine that there is a lot of choices. Also, the Nihilego is feeling a lot of pressure from maybe a Grassy Glide, and so we do see the Nihilego feeling the pressure is going to swap out for a Rillaboom, and fake out does come out, is going to go into the Tornadus, maybe breaking a Focus Sash, but more importantly, going to be making sure that a Tailwind doesn't go off as a Rocky Helmet is revealed, and a Rock Tomb comes out, going to be lowering Tornadus' HP to about half and lowering the speed. Overall, a pretty good first turn for Rinkai, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Rinkai definitely predicted that Kyriakou didn't want to keep in the Nihilego in front of the Landorus, so going to go ahead and get a fake out off so that there's no tailwinds going on. It's actually going to lower the speed with the Rock Tomb. And yeah, the Rocky Helmet's a pretty interesting reveal on Landorus. Usually we see something like a Focus Sash or a Wakan Berry or even a Citrus Berry on more bulky variants, so very interesting there.
As we do see another fake out, Rillaboom's trading fake outs both sides, this time into Landorus, making sure, and another Rocky Helmet is revealed on that Landorus. Super exciting. A U-turn goes in. It does a ton of damage to Rillaboom, actually, bringing it back down to 30%, as Rinkai is going to have the option of either bringing back in the first Mon or revealing another Mon for the first time. We do have a Celesteela joining the field and a shiny one at that. Interested to see maybe trying to get a good pin onto the Rillaboom over on Kyriakou's side, as an Icy Wind's going to do a lot of damage to Landorus. Going to be bragging down to about 50% health, lowering the speed on both sides, which with no Tailwind up yet, it's really nice to have just all these speed drops around over on Rinkai's side.
Yeah, definitely. And Celesteela is in a really good position here because Kyriakou's team doesn't have a lot to deal with it. As we saw, the Incineroar is the only thing in the back that can hit it for super effective damage. So, and then, yeah, we saw the other Rocky Helmet on the Landorus. So with Fake Out as prevalent as ever, Rocky Helmet is a really good item choice.
We do see that Tapu Fini is revealed as a bring for Rinkai, which is going to reset the terrain, going to remove the grassy terrain, which maybe it wasn't really doing much for anyone except for Rillaboom's regeneration at this point. But the Misty Train is going to come onto the field. We're going to see that over us. Oh my word, a Misty Seed is on the Celesteela, bulking up the special defense. Super interesting and an awesome tech. We do see that Tornadus goes for a Protect, though, as a U-turn goes into Tapu Fini. Going to be able to reset that grassy terrain later in the match and pivot out. Kind of nice, a lot of pivoting here, and we do see that Incineroar might be the one that's getting swapped in. Yes, the Intimidate being a little wasted here, not really providing a whole lot of value, but this might be just an opportunity to bring back the Rillaboom later and reset that grassy terrain and try to put some pressure on that Tapu Fini.
Yeah, and Celesteela revealing why exactly it has the Misty Seed. It's going to go for an Acrobatics, which is going to be doubled in power thanks to the use of the item. So Incineroar switching actually proving to be pretty good there, taking the damage from Celesteela, no problem. But the Tapu Fini was a really good switch in there. The Rinkai definitely predicted Kyriakou to not go for anything like a grass move into Tapu Fini, and able to get it in there safely and change the terrain so that it can put on some offensive pressure with things like Muddy Water or even get a Calm Mind up.
Yeah, I gotta admit that there's not a lot of offensive pressure right now coming off on Kyriakou's side when we're looking at how beefy Celesteela's and Tapu Finis can often be. We do finally see a Tailwind coming out, just going to try to attempt to get that speed control in their favor as a Flare Blitz comes out, and that does a ton of damage to Celesteela. It's a critical hit. That certainly helps you take out the Celesteela. Oh my word, that's huge. That Celesteela, for all we know, might have been able to take that quite handily, as we do see Regenerative Berry on the Incineroar. We're going to bring it up to about 60% health with the Citrus Berry. Muddy Water is going to come in. It does connect on both targets. We'll have to see how much it does to both these Pokemon. We're going to be taking this kind of not well. Tornadus hangs on just barely, as Incineroar also clutches it with 29 HP.
Yeah, I really like that play from Kyriakou there. Not wasting any time, going ahead and getting the speed control with Tailwind, and then throwing that Flare Blitz off into Celesteela, and as we can see, it paid off with a critical hit. I think generally Celesteela is able to live that, even if they're the more offensive variants with Acrobatics, but still, yeah, really good play. And that Muddy Water did some sizable damage, but I think Kyriakou's in a pretty good spot here.
Yeah, with this Rillaboom on the field, though, I would imagine that a Grass Glide even would certainly take out the Tornadus. We did see Protect was real in Tornadus, so you can either make a defensive switch in here, you could Protect, or you could just play the mind game and just leave it in and try to get something to happen. But I would imagine that there'd be some pressure to keep Tornadus alive, so that way you can Tailwind later in the late game. Definitely some big decisions that need to happen here. The Rillaboom was able to come in without getting an Intimidate drop from the Incineroar, so it's at full HP. I really do think that Rinkai has a lot of good pieces in their favor right now. We do see the swap out. Rillaboom is going to join the field. We do see an Air Slash come off. No Grassy Glide into the slot. Air Slash is going to bring it down to just under half HP as a Calm Mind is revealed on the Tapu Fini. You're going to be bulking up not only special defense, but the special attack, which probably will be more prevalent for the rest of this match.
Yeah, and we actually saw the Air Slash flinch the Rillaboom on that turn, so maybe he was going for something like a U-turn into Kyriakou's Rillaboom, so pretty fortunate there for Kyriakou, and the Tapu Fini going for the bold Calm Mind, and it is now in the face of a Rillaboom, so it's a bit under pressure there, and hopefully the Rillaboom goes for that Grassy Glide play, but that's not the case here, as we see an Air Slash into Rillaboom.
I will say, is that a clutch survival? Just barely hanging on. Oh, does not matter. The U-turn was targeted into the Rillaboom. I suppose a little more chip damage on Tapu Fini would have been nice if Rillaboom had gone down there and it would have been retargeted into the Tapu Fini slot. But regardless, some more pivoting is happening. There can be opportunity to bring this Incineroar back out. I will say that even though Celesteela did get a critical hit and was brought down immediately by that Incineroar, I do think that Rinkai is doing a good job of preserving HP on both the Rillaboom and the Tapu Fini so far this game. Dazzling even come off. This should be enough to take both of them out, especially with that +1 special attack, as Rinkai is definitely going to be taking some knockouts here and a lot of momentum put in their favor.
Yeah, definitely. They've evened up the score at 2-2, but Kyriakou still has Nihilego and Fake Out Pressure and Rillaboom, so it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. The Tapu Fini is at +1 still, so it should be able to deal some good damage, but it is under pressure from both a Grassy Glide and a Sludge Bomb. So we'll have to see if the Landorus is enough to take out the Nihilego, and Kyriakou might have to make some reads, get a Fake Out into the right slot, and get some damage off. But yeah, pretty close endgame here.
Yeah, this is sweaty. We do see the Nihilego is full HP, is carrying the Power Herb, so could get a special attack boost if it's able to get it off in time. The Tapu Fini does have a +1 special attack, and Nihilego is not known for being necessarily the bulkiest of Pokemon, and so really interested to see how these speeds affect this turn. We're not going to figure out where Landorus falls in the turn order with the Protect here, going into the Fake Out, which reveals what is the Nihilego going for. It is going for Meteor Beam. I'm interested to know what it's targeting into. We did have a special defense boost on that Tapu Fini, so this is going to be about a neutral attack if it does decide to go into the Tapu Fini slot. And no, that Protect was a phenomenal play on Rinkai's side, as Muddy Water is going to fire back. This is +1 into a neutral Nihilego. It's going to do so much damage, bringing it down to 62 HP, about 30%. And a pretty scary turn if you're Kyriakou. I'd imagine you're going to have to clutch it out with some really solid plays here. Otherwise, we're looking towards game 2.
Yeah, really bold play by Rinkai there to just leave the Tapu Fini stranded and not protecting. But Kyriakou deciding to target down the Landorus, so it pays off for them. They get some big damage with Muddy Water. Fortunately for Kyriakou, though, no accuracy drops on either Pokemon from that Muddy Water, which feels a bit rare in this kind of format.
We are going to see that the Grassy Glide goes in there into the Tapu Fini slot. It is to have only a Citrus Berry, which is not what you want to see for Kyriakou. Just looking at how much HP is left on that Tapu Fini. Noticing the offensive pressure, though, coming from the Landorus. They do target well, I think, into the Landorus, and that is going to proc the special attack boost, bringing us up to a +2 special attack Nihilego. I think that this Muddy Water needs to connect and remove this Nihilego for it to work out, and yes, I think Rinkai is very excited to see that Muddy Water connect onto the Nihilego.
Yeah, but this Tapu Fini is still very healthy, and I don't think there's many turns of grassy terrain left. So if Rinkai is able to stall this grassy terrain out with a Protect, or even just live one more Grassy Glide, I think they should be able to win with something like a Moonblast, especially at +1. I
was also really impressed by how little that Tapu Fini was taking from the Rillaboom's Grassy Glide, even to begin with. And so
yeah.
If the grassy terrain goes away, like you said, I really think it's going to be quite underwhelming, the damage going to this Tapu Fini. I'd have to wonder what the defense investment is on that Tapu Fini to be taking the Grassy Glide so well. Or maybe the Rillaboom is much more of a defensive Rillaboom, more for pivoting than I'm used to seeing. But we're going to have to see what happens. How much does this Dazzling Gleam do? I imagine it's slower. Enough to knock it out. Oh, my word. It is able to hold on 6, but this should not do much. It's not enough. The fact that it is slower than this Tapu Fini is very interesting, and certainly is going to mean that Kyriakou is going to have to make some adjustments going into game 2.
Yeah, really close endgame there. Something like a crit would have just won the game for Kyriakou, but they weren't able to get it. I believe the Intimidate drop from the Landorus is what allowed the Tapu Fini to take the hits so well. So
yes.
Good thing they kept it in the back there. But yeah, really well played by both.
Absolutely. And there's so many moments in that game where the HP bars kept dropping to just such small little amounts. I really think that just about some different roles in that game might have really updated how it would have played out. So overall, very exciting game 1. I thought it was very close. Really excited to know what game 2 looks like.
Yeah, definitely. It's very interesting to see. There was a lack of fake outs after turn 1 or turn 2. So I think the Tailwind maybe, encouraged Kyriakou to be a little bit more aggressive and not go for those, pivoting fake out plays and get as much damage off as possible. But unfortunately, it didn't pay off. Despite the critical hit on Celesteela, leaving that Tapu Fini just sit there and get a Calm Mind boost and just dish off some damage turned out to be a bit detrimental for them. So they'll have to pay more attention to it in Game 2 for sure.
Absolutely. And of course, there was some critical hits that certainly put more momentum into Kyriakou's favor, but I think it's really exciting to always watch a player come back from a really bad critical hit that you might not have deserved and still be able to clutch out the game like that. But seriously, there's so many bulky pieces over on Rinkai's side that I really think that Kyriakou is going to find a way to break through so much of the Tapu Fini, for instance, and the Landorus dropping the Intimidates. I really think that they're going to have to lead with a more offensive foot on this game too, and not rely on a critical hit in order to break through the Celesteela too.
Yeah, definitely. Very much looking forward to see what they decide to lead for Game 2 here as we get into the battle here.
Yes, we're going to the battle of Game 2. Interested to see what the adjustments are here. I was pretty pleased with both leads by both of these trainers. I thought that for their team, and the leads made sense. They were both equally offensive and defensive at the same time. We'll have to see what the updates are here. We have a Rillaboom and Landorus. We're looking very similar to Game 1, as a Tornadus is led with a Nihilego as well. Pretty similar leads to what we saw in Game 1.
Yeah, Rinkai's putting on that fake out pressure still and has the ability to go for something like an Earth Power into the Nihilego, or go for that U-turn again, or Rock Tomb, as we saw, into the Tornadus, which we know has Rocky Helmet now. So it'd be interesting to see if Kyriakou wants to make the same sort of defensive play, or maybe go more offensive and attack with Nihilego this turn.
Absolutely. We do see that Kyriakou is feeling the pressure from the Rillaboom's fake out and just opting for a double protect. We haven't seen the full moveset of Landorus. This would be a terrible Swords Dance moment if you're Landorus, but if you're Rinkai, it'd be a sweet opportunity to Swords Dance or pivot out. But regardless, I do think this is a smart play. It's always really nice to be able to avoid the Rock Tomb that was already revealed in this Landorus, avoid the fake out, and just kind of play it safer, especially when I remember the beginning of Game 1, a lot of HP was lost in the very first couple turns on Kyriakou's side. Noticing that a double protect here is very safe. Fake out going this time into Nihilego, maybe anticipating a fake or a protect coming out from the Tornadus anyways. As we do see that the Landorus targeted into these Pokemon, so a pretty similar board state to turn 2 as it was for turn 1.
Yeah, the Rinkai is able to just go for something like a Grassy Glad into the Nihilego this slot and do some really big damage, but that could be predicted by Kyriakou, and a switch into Incineroar could be coming. And the Landorus is kind of under threat also of just something like an Icy Wind plus Meteor Beam, but we do see the Landorus go ahead and switch out.
Celesteela is a pretty decent swap in here. We'll probably take a Meteor Beam neutrally and probably decently well, and anything that comes up from this Tornadus as well. Celesteela avoids the Icy Wind that might come into play later, depending on if Tailwind gets set up or not, as far as the speed tiers go. But Rillaboom is going to get that speed drop. As Meteor Beam does go off, we're going to get that special attack boost on the Nihilego, and it's going to stay there for as long as it's on the field. Interested to know where it targeted into. If it's going into that Celesteela, I'm curious to know how much a +1 Nihilego is doing to it. We do see the Meteor Beam. Does it connect? It sure does. And what was it targeted into? Ooh. It was indeed a Celesteela, and that does actually a lot of damage. I wonder if this is a more offensive Celesteela, as a Wood Hammer comes out and totally one-shots Nihilego straight off the field.
Yeah. I mean, really good damage from Kyriakou there on the Celesteela. That thing is the biggest problem for him, for sure. So getting damage off on it early is certainly nice, but they do lose their Nihilego in the process. But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting spot here. The Incineroar gets to just come in and put on offensive pressure with Flare Blitz to either slot. So I don't know if you like that trade if you're Kyriakou, but yeah, definitely some interesting stuff going on here.
Yeah, the Intimidate on the Rillaboom also helps too. I'd imagine you could maybe anticipate them swapping out and trying to guess what's coming in there. You could probably go for an Air Slash pretty freely into that Rillaboom slot, honestly. And if you catch a Tapu Fini coming in, or a Landorus, or whoever really, this is not hurt at all. And I think that's what Kyriakou is opting for. Rinkai has to make some decisions here, though. Is the Rillaboom swap out too obvious, or do you leave it in and try to get some damage down? The Celesteela is also dangerously low, so if you don't have anything to stop that Incineroar, you might be scared of and just want to swap out, which is what we do see as Tapu Fini comes in over here as a swap in for Celesteela, leaving the Rillaboom open unless they go for a double switch. We do see the Misty Terrain come in here. Going to be removing the Grassy Terrain, which might benefit either player in the late game. And yes, we do see a double switch here. The Rillaboom is going to leave knowing that it was doing nothing after the Intimidate to either of these Pokemon in Kyriaku's side. As the Landorus comes in, we're seeing two Pokemon that have already kind of brought problems to Kyriakou in game 1. But catching the Landorus on the switch in an Icy Wind. Oh my word, that's going to do half HP to Landorus. That is a really good thing, seeing that Landorus swap in if you're Kyriakou. Going to also be lowering the speed, which might come into favor later. U-turn going into Landorus, doing a very small amount of damage. Honestly, taking more damage than it dealt. But more importantly, is going to be able to go back and maybe reset the train, as well as maybe be able to swap in that Incineroar later and lower the attack on that Landorus.
Yeah, that Icy Wind damage on the Landorus was huge, because now you know if you go for another one, you'll eliminate the Landorus, and you can go for something like a Grassy Glide into the Tapu Fini for pretty much free. I mean, even if they switch in, you still have offensive pressure with you have the speed control on Icy Wind, and you can just U-turn back out into Incineroar. So a very good position here from Kyriakou. I really like that double up play with the Icy Wind and U-turn, because if you expect the Rillaboom to stay in, you know you're faster after the Icy Wind, and you just eliminate the Rillaboom. Double switch there from Rinkai to avoid that.
Yeah, we're seeing a phenomenal play here, by the way, by Kyriakou, anticipating the switch out from that Landorus was amazing, leaving it be. We are going to see this Rillaboom get in here for free, though, with the double targeting going into the Tapu Fini here. I might have liked to see the Icy Wind plus the Grassy Glide, just because if, like, let's say the Celesteela comes into that Tapu Fini slot, I think Icy Wind plus a Grassy Glide into the Celesteela with where it is HP wise would be enough to knock it out. So there was very little fallback for just doing another Icy Wind and just keeping on that speed control. But we do see Tapu Fini feeling the pressure. Landorus is going to come in to not only remove Tapu Fini off the field in front of that Rillaboom, but also going to be intimidating the Rillaboom, making sure whatever Rillaboom decides to do on Kyriaku's side is going to be doing minimal damage. Grassy Glide on Kyriaku's side is going to go to Landorus. With that Intimidate, it is going to be able to survive it and take some damage from Rocky Helmet. Air Slash does come through onto Rinkai's side. The Rillaboom takes it and is able to survive it, just barely surviving as it fires off a U-turn just in time for Rillaboom to take a decent amount of damage as we see these blows going back and forth from both sides.
Yeah, I'm really shocked at how little that Grassy Glide did to Landorus. It must be a defensive investment for sure. But, I mean, you're in a pretty okay spot there if you're Kyriakou. I feel like Rinkai got most of that turn, though. They were able to get a ton of damage off on the Rillaboom and avoid the flinch on their own Rillaboom. But yeah, now it's looking a little tricky because the Landorus isn't exactly, well, it's threatened by the Icy Wind, and then the Tapu Fini is kind of safe to do whatever it wants this turn because the Rillaboom is intimidated.
Absolutely. Really interested to know if this Landorus, with it being the Rocky Helmet set, I would imagine it really pays to have a lot of defense invested in it, like you mentioned. But Rillaboom is going to swap on here. We're getting to the mid to late game where a lot of these chipped Pokemon are at very low HP, and any attack that comes through on either side might be enough to remove it off the field. This Icy Wind might be enough to KO both of these Mons, actually, as, oh my word, Kyriakou gets a double knockout with Icy Wind. Phenomenal play from Kyriaku's side, and this is shaping up to be an interesting endgame.
Yeah, definitely. Who would have thought Icy Wind would have been the most prevalent offensive move in this game? But yeah, it's proving to do a lot of damage and really control the board with speed control. So now it's just Tapu Fini and Celesteela against Kyriaku's team, which still has Incineroar, so that Celesteela is not necessarily safe. But I could definitely see a world where Rinkai plays this correctly and has a chance to bring the game back. But you know, maybe after looking at that Celesteela HP, it's a bit too much if you can switch out the Rillaboom and reset the terrain. But yeah, it's a bit tough at this point.
Yeah, it's a big decision here. Do you bring the Rillaboom back, bring out the Incineroar so you can reset the terrain in the back? I would almost wonder that if you go for an Icy Wind, you might be able to just outspeed that Tapu Fini, unlike game 1. But we do see that they are going to opt for the safe play of getting that grassy terrain over on their side for the final turns of this game, maybe down the line. Intimidate's going to come off, not going to affect any of these Pokemon over a Rinkai side, but most importantly, that Incineroar has a ton of HP left that Rinkai's going to have to get through. Icy Wind comes off, going to make sure that Tapu Fini is going to be slower than the Rillaboom when it comes in later. Very important. I'm interested to know what they went for here. There was a defensive switch turn over on Kyriakou's side, so depending on what they went for here, we do see a Dazzling Gleam just going to chip away, and oh boy, we do see that Celesteela is opting for a defensive endgame with a Leech Seed going into the Tornado slot.
Yeah, that's one way you can secure the game is if you're able to heal up the Celesteela enough, you might just be able to bring the game back. I think Kyriakou still has the advantage because they have the speed control on Icy Wind. But, maybe if they correctly predict an attack into Celesteela and protect it and go for a Calm Mind, and then they're able to get some Muddy Water accurate drops off, they bring the game back like this. But we are going to Celesteela protect.
Yes, the game begins of watching Celesteela siphon off HP from Tornadus, protect themselves, and try to get up to a place where it's able to maybe take Flare Blitz. As we do see the Muddy Water is going to miss the Incineroar, that is a huge win for Kyriakou, and not what you want to see if you're Rinkai, who's already kind of in a backpedaling position here. Tornadus is going to go dangerously low here. You either have to swap out Tornadus into Rillaboom here, or you just accept the fact that Tornadus is going down here to another Leech Seed and maybe an attack from the Tapu Fini.
Yeah, the Incineroar is Assault Vest, so there was no question it was going to live that. But I think if you're able to get the Muddy Water and maybe get an accuracy drop, then Celesteela might dodge the Flare Blitz, and then you sort of have a way to come back with Celesteela against Rillaboom in the end game. But yeah, thanks to that Muddy Water, this Flare Blitz is going to just clean up the Celesteela pretty cleanly. And then, the Rillaboom should be able to kind of finish off this Tapu Fini at this point.
I do appreciate Rinkai noticing that the win condition was to maybe land a double protect and try to remove that Incineroar, but we just see there's too much HP left on this Mon. Also is able to eat its Citrus Berry, going to bring it up even further. And I do believe that there's nothing stopping this Rillaboom from coming back in. Maybe even just getting to put some fake out pressure on the Tapu Fini and let Incineroar get a free hit off and then go into Grassy Glides. Or I suppose you can just double target into it. But we do see that with minimal HP, Kyriakou is still looking to be in a commanding position to tie this up and maybe go to a game 3.
Yeah, it definitely looks like we're going to a game 3. And my mistake completely. The Incineroar Citrus Berry, I totally forgot. The Assault Vest is on the Rillaboom. So, that Muddy Water turn that missed, might have even been more pivotal than we thought. It might have been able to crit and knock out the Incineroar, and then that Celesteela would have just wrapped up the game. So very fortunate for Kyriakou that turn. And yeah, we're gonna have to see how they adjust going into game 3.
Excellent point. I don't think we would even be seeing this Incineroar here on this field right now, putting on pressure, really, if it wasn't for the Muddy Water miss. I gotta say that Kyriakou has some really fortunate RNG these two games. First game getting that critical hit on the Celesteela. Didn't end up mattering. Rinkai was able to outplay it because it happened so early in the game. But here, there's a Muddy Water miss there is just absolutely detrimental to Rinkai. And we're going to see this Grassy Glide come in. Should do a ton of damage to this Tapu Fini. And without the Intimidate drop from game 1, that Rillaboom is able to clean it up quite easily. And we are going into a game 3.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a really good beginning by Kyriakou there to get a ton of damage off on the Celesteela. But as we saw, it was still in that case, even though they didn't knock it out, they were still able to win that game. And we saw how much Rillaboom should have been doing to Tapu Fini without the Intimidate. So, very, very good bounce back there.
Yeah, we didn't actually see we haven't seen yet what Grassy Glide does to the Tapu Fini if the Tapu Fini is at full. Tapu Fini might have been bred defensively enough to be able to take it if it is a normal neutral Grassy Glide, Grassy Terrain boosted Rillaboom. We haven't seen that yet. Really interested to know how these things play out, but the awesome part about this format is how much getting chip damage matters. Getting that chip damage in the beginning of the game, catching the different switch-ins, getting the right predictions really makes a difference in this end game. And so unfortunate that the Muddy Water missed if you are Rinkai, but for us, we get to go to a game 3, so I'm not complaining, actually. Let's bring out the game 3 and see who brings us home. for their team. I'm rooting a little bit for the underdog here, just so that way they're able to go and leave this week with a 3-5 versus a 2-6 deficit. And we're going to see if there's any adjustments. Rillaboom and Celesteela, we do see the first adjustment of this game in this game 3, as Celesteela is showing its face right away, as we do see the same lead for the third time from Kyriakou.
Yeah, really interesting adjustment by Rinkai, just leaving that Celesteela immediately and saying, "Hey, you better get damage on this thing, or I'm gonna set up and beat you." But yeah, we're gonna see Kyriakou's thinking about going for a defensive play, but I think the momentum here is in Rinkai's favor because they have the fake out pressure and they can go for something like a heavy slam into either slot, and it should do a lot of damage. And then, the next turn they should be able to protect Celesteela and pivot out as necessary.
Absolutely. I'm looking over the chat, and there's some fun chat going on about the money wire miss. Absolutely detrimental and also hilarious to some people, of course. But we have the Incineroar coming in, going to be dropping the attack on the Rillaboom, and a solid play. Obviously feeling some pressure over on the Nihilego slot, and sure enough, an intimidated Rillaboom is not even going to land anything, as a double target goes to Nihilego. This Incineroar got in for free, and the fake out pressure is reset over on Kyriakou's side.
Yeah, it didn't work out, but I actually really like that play from Rinkai. Just saying, I'm going to get rid of this Nihilego as early as possible. I don't care how much damage you do to Celesteela. But, Kyriakou's made a really good play protecting the Nihilego and now has fake out pressure of their own to go ahead and get some damage off.
Absolutely. Really interested what happens here. Nihilego feel interesting. Despite having some fake out pressure, is going to decide that it's better to bring out Tornadus. Celesteela protects, maybe feeling some pressure from the Incineroar, as a Wood Hammer comes off into this Tornadus. It is not effective, and it is a -1 attack, but that still does some decent damage. Rocky Helmet, though, is going to inflict some damage in retaliation onto the Rillaboom, as a U-turn does a decent amount of damage, actually. Seriously, that is some solid chip that should put it in range for maybe an Icy Wind from this Tornadus, potentially. Certainly a little more damage than I was expecting, honestly, as Nihilego comes back onto the field.
Yeah, really good play there from Kyriakou, just letting that Rillaboom take the Rocky Helmet and the Tornadus take the resisted Wood Hammer, able to get the Nihilego out. And I think despite as good of an offensive position this looks for the Nihilego and Kyriakou, I think you'd want to switch it out for the Incineroar still, because switching in Incineroar in this slot is like a no drawback play. Like, Rillaboom and Celesteela aren't going to do too much damage to you, and if Celesteela and Rillaboom target your Tornadus, they're going to take a lot of damage from the Rocky Helmet. So I think that's probably the best play in this slot, but I could also see them going for something like a Sludge Bomb into that Rillaboom just to finish it off.
Yeah, this Celesteela is sitting on the field without really feeling much pressure, though, either. The Nihilego did do a lot of damage, I think, game 1 with that Meteor Beam, but was able to take it quite handily. And I imagine, depending on what the moveset is, we might be able to get some use out of Celesteela this turn. Landorus is going to come out on the field in Rillaboom's place. The Intimidate drop is not really going to affect any of Kyriakou's Pokemon, but we do see that feeling a little pressure maybe from the Celesteela, maybe scouting for what moves are on the Celesteela as well. We do see it protect, as Air Slash does so much damage, a critical hit. That makes tons of sense. Leech Seed comes off, making me wonder if the Celesteela is purely a defensive stall, get some HP from Leech Seed set.
Yeah, well, the typical Celesteela sets nowadays, it seems like they have the Acrobatics with the Seed to boost the damage, and then they have Heavy Slam to sort of help with another stab, and then they have the Leech Seed to heal up as another option. So, Celesteela is very versatile, but now I could definitely see Nihilego going for some offense. We're actually going to see it switch, though.
Yeah, also, we have seen time and time again that Icy Wind does more than half to the Landorus, and the Landorus is just below half. So if this Landorus sticks in here and takes this Icy Wind, it's going down. Knowing that, though, Rinkai is going to go for a protect here. Going to make sure that Landorus is going to be able to stick around their turn. And we are going to see a speed drop over on the Celesteela. Not sure how important that might be. Maybe we haven't necessarily seen a whole lot of speed interactions between Incineroar and Celesteela, but this will certainly ensure that Incineroar will be able to go before the Celesteela next turn, as a Heavy Slam does minimal damage into this Incineroar, and it's going to be healing up, the only one on the field to be healing up from this grassy terrain.
Yeah, Kyriaku's in such a great position right here. They can go for the Icy Wind, knock out the Landorus, get a bit more chip on the Celesteela, and maybe knock it out with the Flare Blitz. So they're in a really good spot to just go for some offense.
Whoa! We have Churnator on the field for the first time. This is certainly an adjustment from Rinkai. I'm interested to know what this Churnator is going to do. Icy Wind is going to miss its mark on the Churnator. Not sure how much the speed was going to matter in the future. We'll have to find out. But the Celesteela is going to lose an airspeed drop, ensuring this Flare Blitz will go into it before it's able to fire back with anything.
Ooh.
And that Flare Blitz is able to knock it out without the critical hit, which makes me wonder if earlier, game one, that critical hit even mattered.
Yeah, good point. I mean, Incineroar is very strong. Despite people not running a ton of investment in it most times, it is able to do lots of damage with Flare Blitz. And the Turtonator reveal here is very interesting because you think you don't want to bring it in front of Nihilego because it really can't do much, but maybe if it's able to set up with something like a substitute that's commonly run on other, Iron Defense body press mons like Komo'o, maybe it could do some work here. But yeah, we are able to see the Landorus come back in and get an Intimidate on the Incineroar, so not a ton of offensive pressure. Well, actually, the Icy Wind's able to just KO the Landorus at this point, so it really interesting position.
Very interesting, as we just saw when Kyriakou went into there. Another miss on the Churnator for Icy Wind. I'm not sure how much this is going to influence these next turns, but that it might be a really important thing for Rinkai, as we do see that it does unfortunately land a Landorus. I bet Landorus would have liked to have dodged that, actually. Is going to go down as Darkest Lariat comes off into the Churnator, does very minimal damage, as sure enough, body presses come out, but it's going to be going into the Tornadus slot. Was not expecting that.
Yeah, interesting. The Darkest Lariat's a really big reveal for Kyriakou. So basically saying if you decide to get Iron Defense boosts up, my Incineroar will still be doing the same amount thanks to the Darkest Lariat secondary effect. But interesting that we saw the body press go into the Tornadus slot. I think maybe Rinkai's thinking they don't want to take a KO this turn so that, Nihilego can't get a free switch in. So pretty interesting play there. It's now 4-2, so Rinkai's definitely going to have to pull some interesting moves to win this one. So I think Kyriaku's definitely still in the driving seat.
Yeah, I would love to know what the thought process was for the body press going into Tornadus. There's not really a ton of Pokemon coming in that, like, if you're anticipating a switch out, there's not a ton of Pokemon that you want to catch with a body press over in that slot. Incineroar is right there. And also, I would imagine that, yeah, I'm trying to come up with a reason why that would happen. Because now, if you had gotten into the Incineroar, let's say best case scenario, you crit, or maybe the body press is super powerful, and you remove the Incineroar, and Nihilego does come in, then you have all the pressure from Grassy Glide on your Rillaboom going into the Nihilego. So really interesting choices here, and we see so much momentum. Kyriakou is just kind of wrapping this up at this point, going to be taking the knockout on the Rillaboom. And it's kind of Churnator against the world at this point.
Yeah, definitely. And we see the follow-up Flare Blitz in case the Air Slash missed or the Rillaboom somehow hangs on. And we're going to see the Iron Defense from the Turtonator. But I think it's a bit too late given that Kyriakou still has special offensive pressure from the Air Slash and the Nihilego in the back, which is still full HP, by the way. So I think at this point, Kyriakou, all he has to do is click moves until something goes down, bring in the Nihilego, and go for a power gem, and this game should be pretty much wrapped up.
Absolutely. And yeah, these iron defenses are not going to do anything against the Nihilego, who is going to be just boosting up its special attack and hitting a power gem or a meteor beam. So I really think it's just a waiting game at this point, as we do see an Air Slash go in, going to be doing some decent damage. U-turn's going to come through. I'm interested to know if an attack went into this Incineroar slot. If a body press went into the slot, you might be risking a lot of damage on this Rillaboom, and maybe the Nihilego if you had chosen to do that. But no, we do see the Rillaboom come through here. Interested to know, no, just going for iron defenses, going to be keep going up. But we saw that Air Slash do so much damage, and with only grassy terrain being the only form of recovery over on Turtonator's side. Oh no, I am wrong. I'm sorry. There's leftovers over there as well. So Turtonator is back up to the green. Gonna see Rinkai really holding on to this and trying to just hope that it's gonna be enough.
Yeah, I think they just have to hope to have enough special defense investment to live a power gem. I think if they hit the meteor beam, it's kind of over at this point. But I think Rinkai's kind of going for the possibility where they're having a body iron defense boost so that they can just one-shot everything with body press, and if the right misses happen or lack of flinches and things like that, they're able to win the game. But I just think that it's too much in Kyriakou's favor at this point.
Absolutely. We do see the Rillaboom's going for a knockoff, a very smart choice, removing the secondary recovery right now with the leftovers, and this grassy terrain is not going to be around forever. So soon enough, this Turtonator is not going to be recovering at all anymore. We do see that the defense boosts are, oh my word, and also a flinch from the air slash. That is not what you want to have happen if you're Rinkai here. I think that really seals it up. There's no leftovers left for the recovery. This air slash might be enough to KO it. It's been doing about 20 to 30% so far, as we do see Rinkai going to just try to get a little more recovery from this grassy terrain and go into the turn after this one.
Yeah, definitely. That flinch pretty much sealed the game. Kyriakou just has to hit one more air slash. I think the grassy terrain should be ending this turn or the next turn. So, like you said, it's just a waiting game. There goes the grassy terrain. Yeah, one more air slash and knockoff should be able to finish it. Pretty interesting adjustment here from Rinkai to bring the Turtonator. I'm not sure something like Tapu Fini would have been better in the way the game played out, but it was interesting to switch to Turtonator, especially with the strong weakness to Nihilego.
We do see Kyriakou finally seal a deal. That air slash was enough to knock it out, and here we are watching Kyriakou finally get another win for the team, which is super important. Having a 3-5 standing going into the future certainly looks better than 2-6 and might come into effect when it comes down to the different scorings of the team in the future. What were your overall thoughts from Game 3, though, Angelo?
Yeah, it was a very different game than the first two games. We saw Celesteela in the lead, which was new, but then Kyriakou made a lot of defensive plays. They played really well with their Incineroar. They didn't let their Nihilego take too much damage, and they were able to sort of save it for the end. It didn't actually come into play because of how the rest of the turns came out, but the Turtonator was not able to get going, and they were able to sort of knock out the pieces around it and leave it by itself, and it led to a really clean end game.
Absolutely. As always, super fun to commentate and watch these matches with all of you. We are so excited to be bringing you 3 more matches today on this stream, so please stick around. We'll be giving you a second match very shortly. Stick around. Thanks for watching.